Tonight, the topic's going to be the problem with, we've been doing this series, the problem with blank is, tonight it's going to be the problem with change is, and if you take 100 people, about 88, something like that, aren't thrilled with the idea of change. About 12 thrive on it. Those 12 people should be doing entrepreneurial work 100%. They should be developing something. They should be designing something. They should be in a high-risk, high-reward enterprise. They really should. And whether they are or not, I don't know, but those persons have an aptitude that is, for them, really healthy if they are willing to work on that and work that through. But for most of us, for a lot of us, for the other 80-some%, change is all at once. It's scary. Change is necessary. And change is freeing, or certainly can be. Scary, necessary, freeing. At least two of those three don't sound like there's going to be a whole lot of fun. Scary and necessary, probably wouldn't classify that as being like fun or exciting or whatever, but they are exactly what they say they are. Scary and necessary, I think, go together, because while it's scary, while you got to be able to see the change and accept it and live in it, while it's scary, it's also true that for the vast majority of stuff that we face in our lives, it's also going to be necessary. And it's also true that it's going to be freeing. So change can do several things for us and with us. Change can and will shake us up. You know, my mom used to, back in the day, she made fried chicken. And so we knew she was making fried chicken when she would take this baggie and put flour in it and shake up the pieces. And then you knew dinner probably that night was going to be good. You know, it was going to be good. And so I always enjoyed being able to watch that, kind of stayed out of the way, because my mom had a little bit of the German, I guess the word is feistiness in her. And on more than one occasion, when one of us kids got a little too close to her flour deal, she would kind of aim it at you and have a lot of fun getting it all over you. And you would complain and whine and get all that. She'd be like, yeah, but I'm having fun. And you're had it all over you and all that. But, it can shake us up. Change can stretch us out to the point, in a lot of cases, I think in almost every case, of discomfort. And it can shape us. Good therapy does all of that. And that's why so many therapists really aren't very popular in a lot of cases, because you go to see this person and what you're looking for basically is comfort. Well, good therapy provides the depth of comfort in a variety of ways, but it's not going to likely provide you with, good therapy is not likely going to provide you with no challenges, no shakeups, no stretching, and no shaping. That's what you're going to this individual, this therapist for, is that kind of a process. Would really recommend, if you're going through a process of recovery with pretty much anything, but specifically alcohol or drugs, one of the false assumptions is that, well, if I go to treatment center A, I go through treatment process B, I should be well in 6 to 10 weeks or whatever it is, 3 months. The most effective piece probably of what's going to happen is what's going to happen when you're not in that facility. What's that about? Well, that would be about like what kind of aftercare are you getting? If you go to 8 to 10 weeks or 6 weeks of treatment for something specific, and you sit there and you take it all in, you learn the AA principles, you do all the work. The thing about it is, the AA principles have a tremendous amount of depth to them that memorizing them or knowing them doesn't bring you. Stuff like the Big Book brings that to you. The 12 and 12 brings that to you. Groups bring that to you. Meetings bring that to you. Reading does that to you. The literature does that for you. But also that place of going, I really have never thought about this before. I'm like shaken by what you're saying. I'm like shaken by what I'm hearing. Being shaken is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's exactly what we need. Being stretched is not necessarily a bad thing. It may be exactly what we need. Being shaped and formed, and you can imagine if you're doing the aftercare work, that I think is essential. I think if you do a treatment process, right, and you start off with the objective is I'm trying to get myself 6 months sober, a year sober. I bet if you ask Cody, we're not going to put you on the spot, but I bet if you ask Cody, did you get a lot more than you bargained for in this last 12 months? You would say yes, wouldn't you? I bet if I ask you, were there things you really didn't want to know about yourself that you learned about yourself in 12 months? You would say yes. That is all the process of what sobriety, not drinking or not drugging, but what sobriety looks like, what sober living looks like, what sober thinking looks like, what having a sober relationship with Jesus looks like, right? Those are the things you got to kind of like come to terms with. And I really, really can't emphasize enough, if you've gone through a process like that, please seek out a therapist, someone to talk to in an ongoing way on a regular basis to be able to help you, in addition to a sponsor and however else you're working the program, to help you unravel and dismantle and get inside of the stuff that you're not talking to your family about, you're not talking to your friends about. Basically, if you put it on a sheet, it's one of the things you're most afraid of. One of the things, or one of the many things you're afraid of. That's the stuff right there that we all got to go to work on in order for our sobriety to get us a year, 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, 30 years clean and sober. People with 25 years clean and sober know how to work a recovery process. The recovery process takes you from reading it in the AA literature to going to a meeting and learning more about that, to talking about that with the sponsor, to maybe seeking out even a different sponsor to kind of learn more. It takes all of those pieces to talking it out with just basic friends in the program. It takes all those pieces for sobriety to really get depth inside of us. We didn't get to a place of not being sober randomly and not by accident. We didn't do that, and we're not gonna get sober by accident. There's a rhythm to this. There's a set of basically requirements to this. People have variance in how they do it, but I really got to say, I think that the principles are the principles are the principles are the principles. You got to have somebody to talk to. You got to know how to be honest. You got to do the hard work. You got to do the hard work that you don't want to do. You got to do the work that makes you uncomfortable. You got to do the work that's making you stretch, get shaken up, and get shaped. You got to do that kind of work. And it's hard. And it's not easy. and we would all like it to be over, and we would like to kind of like get on with it and have it just go away. But the thing is, healthy recovery isn't something, when it really takes hold of you, it's not honestly something that you can't wait to have go away. It's something that you can't get enough of. That's why there are people here in this room with 8, 10, 15 years, 20-some years clean and sober. That is why they're here. They're here to help you, but they're also here to keep learning, because they know that there's never a time when their recovery would stop or be unnecessary, or they have it all figured out. They know that. Shaken up, stretched, and shaped. The truth of this is that we are going to be literally paralyzed emotionally, spiritually, and mentally if we let fear, the opposite of what I'm talking about, if we let fear make our decisions. But see, if we're making a decision about our own recovery, if we're making the decision, it is going to be scary. If we're making the decision about our recovery, we're not going to be sure if it's the right thing. If we're making the decision about our recovery, the first thing we got to do is be able to get some other people around us that we trust, that we believe love and care for us, that will tell us the truth, and we got to be able to listen to them. And then along the way, we got to gain the confidence in the fact that I really can let other people into my life that can speak into me. That involves treatment, yes. That involves or intensive therapy, whatever. It involves that. It also involves aftercare and therapy after the sober event has started, because the sober event requires, just like any other plant or whatever, the sober event in your life and mine requires ongoing nurturing, ongoing care. Like, for those of you who've been sober a long time, am I right or wrong that you can tell when you're basically out of kilter? Am I right or wrong? You can tell it. You can feel it, right? You know when things with you are out of whack, don't you? You know, like your anxiety level is up, you're more combative, you're more short-tempered, you're more depressed, whatever it is. You would say something is off. Something is off. Well, the only way for something to get on is if you provide yourself with the necessary correctives. And if those are not in place for you, you're going to like wander around the desert and have no idea what's next and become increasingly more miserable. And eventually, it'll probably lead to a relapse. When we make the decision that we want to get better, that we want to get clean, that we want to get sober, look, it is going to be scary, because it's like there's no real turning back from that. There's no, well, I can live my life and kind of do what I want to do, live a little bit on the edge, but I don't really need groups. I don't need meetings like this. I don't need a therapist. I think I can just do this on my own, because that's what I'm led to believe, because that's my nature. My nature as a human being is basically an arrogant nature, isn't it? We grew up with that, like, that's us. It's okay, God, we got it from here. Did God really say don't eat from that tree? Plain and simple, he did. And you're like, yeah, well, kind of not sure about that. It's like the only reason you're not sure is you didn't want to hear it, right? You didn't want to hear that. God was very clear about that. You were very unclear about what God was saying to you because it benefited you or it benefits me. But when change happens to us and we're not making the decision for that change, it's probably fair to say it's going to be an even bigger struggle. Because then in every case, probably true in the case of me being willing to do this, probably also true, but even more true, that change is going to be an even bigger struggle when it basically happens to me, whether I wanted to or not. Likely to bring a higher level of resentment, a higher level of discord, a higher level of confusion, a higher level of fear, a higher level of emotion that I could have worked my way through if I was like in a process. Change is probably for all of us at some level, sooner or later, whether you're grieving a lost relationship, you're grieving a lost marriage, you're grieving a friendship, whatever, you're grieving a job, whatever it is, change is going to associate itself with grief. Grief would be a normal part of the process of going through change. We have at Fig Tree, we work with a ministry here that we call Fig Tree. Fig Tree works with people primarily that are either semi-homeless or all the way homeless. And of the people that we meet, we go Monday through Friday and then a little bit Friday and then Saturday for the morning. Of the people that we meet on a regular basis at Fig Tree, there are a tremendous number of people that are vets. When I was like doing ministry downtown at Carm on Friday nights, I would say 60 to 70% of the people that I met in that ministry were vets. Well, they're vets because they weren't getting the right level of care or they weren't accepting it to transition from everything in their life being scheduled and ordered to they get out of the service and they have no real tools to survive. And so you just aren't sure, you're just drift for a while and you're not sure, and then it gets worse and then worse and then worse. And then maybe some kind of a substance gets involved and that makes it still worse. And then you begin to have health issues, and that makes it even more worse. And I mean, the thing about that is, the whole while there is a grief process in play. The grief process is vets are grieving the rhythm and the structure and the order that they knew for the period of time that they were in service. And that's gone now. And I don't think we do a very good job of helping people to understand what's the new comfort, what's the new security, what's the new order that can be in place for you. I still don't think we do that very well. We provide some housing, we provide some therapy, but honestly not enough. That's just an example of kind of what I'm talking about is, how do you make healthy change? You got to ask yourself, right off the bat, what is my level of willingness? Like, am I willing to like seek something or someone out? Am I willing to not go to the minimum, but go to the maximums? What am I willing to do? Am I willing to go the extra 5 miles to do everything necessary to get myself in a place where I'm both healing and much healthier than I was a year ago? Am I willing to do that? Am I not willing to do that? Am I willing to seek somebody out and ask for help? If I'm not willing to do any of that, the question for me is, why? Like, what is it tonight that you are needing and willing to defend? What is it about you that you feel the need and the willingness to defend? If you're not willing to change or accept change, I think two things are true. You are either afraid of losing what you have, or I think you are afraid of not getting what you want. Here's a graphic I want to show you. What is that? Square peg in a round hole. Has anyone ever felt like they spent any part of their life as a square peg trying to pound themselves into a round hole? Anybody done that? Was it a lovely experience? No. But the thing is, we keep hammering at the damn thing thinking, well, somehow just the next hammer is going to work. It's like, look it, man. Take a picture of that. That thing isn't going to go in there. You can shave it off or do whatever, but it's not, as it stands, it's not going in there. A change is going to have to be made. You're going to have to take out the square peg and put in a round one. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to like that. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience because the square peg is the one you know the best. The square peg is the one you're most familiar with. The square peg is really the one that you're in love with. That's the square peg. This guy, Nate Silver, says this: when we can't fit a square peg into a round hole, we'll usually blame the peg. Amen? We'll usually blame the peg. Thing is, like, you got to be the one to decide. Nobody can decide this for you. I don't care if it's somebody else in your life and what you're doing with them. I don't care if it's a codependent experience you're in. I don't care if it's a sex situation you're in, drug and alcohol, whatever. I don't care what it is. You got to be the one to decide how to answer this question. What am I willing to do? What are you willing to change? Or what are you willing to continue to defend about you? Change, no doubt about it, I don't think. Change comes faster when you're following somebody else who is changing with you or has never given up changing. Change comes faster when you're following. It just does. Change comes faster when you're following the right sponsor. Change comes faster when you're following the right leader. Change comes faster when you're following the right therapist. It just does. It just does. And that really right there is the power of the groups that we offer on a night like tonight. We're going to finish this up. We're going to start groups at like 7:40. The power of those groups is the reinforcement of the change that you're experiencing, the confidence that they can give you inside of your own heart, the belief that they believe in you to do it, and the love and compassion that is in the rooms. Those are all true. But the work for change, it's just got to be done. It's got to be done by you. So I think the question is like, instead of us asking why does this have to be like this? Why can't I do it this way? Why does it have to go like this? I'll give you a good example. There is a guy that does the sermon with us who's a big-time golfer. And so a few years ago, he just kept struggling with this golf swing. Like, he watches scores kept going higher and higher and higher. Finally does the first right thing, goes to a golf pro and says, I just need some little hints and tips about how to change my golf swing. So they go out there and they video his golf swing. He comes back a week later and he goes, so Doc, what do I got to do? And he goes, I thought it was going to tell me you got to change your shoes, you got the wrong clubs. He goes, your grip is wrong. The guy goes, well, you gotta act like you've never picked up a golf club in your life, and you've got to start completely over because there's no way for me to tweak what you're doing. You got to learn a whole new way entirely to do this. You got to learn a new way to think about it. You got to learn a new way to practice. You got to learn a new way to do everything you're currently doing. And he goes, so, like, I swallowed hard, and I had to decide, do I really want to risk that, or do I believe that I can do well enough to, like, on my own and kind of get through what I got to do and like, play it out? And he goes, I finally decided there was no playing it out. So We dismantled everything about that swing and built it back within a year or a year and a half or whatever. He didn't like it. It wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. It made golf a lot less fun. Well, there's a saying in recovery. Recovery it's pretty easy. Like, all you got to do is be willing to change everything about yourself. Great, huh? So I think that's true. I think that where the sticking points are the points of order, the points of disorder in your life and mine, where every time we're into an issue, if we go to autopilot, we're going to find ourselves in the same position, with the same defeat, with the same unhappiness, with the same being disheartened, with that same feeling, that same reality. The way through it is to go, I got to start all over. And I got to be willing to listen to somebody else tell me what I don't want to hear. Sweet Jesus, man, I pray for that. I just pray for that. I pray for that willingness in all of us, that acceptability, that even if we don't love us right now, you love us dearly. You're not going to quit on us. You're not going to walk away from us. You're not going to reject us. In your sweet name, amen.